Welcome back to the Football Front Podcast. It's, I don't know what episode, but we're back after another break. Sorry about that. Anywho, let's get right into it. I'm going to be going over my rankings for the teams coming up for this coming year and my free agency grades, not draft, free agency, because I have not a clue about the draft. I know I'm pretty bad. But without further ado, let's get started. First team, it has to be the Kansas City Chiefs. How can you have a team that just won the Super Bowl not be the first team? Unless they lost their entire team, I guess. But Chiefs, obviously, got to be the number one. They're still going to have Patrick Mahomes. Like that, they're not just going to decline instantly. That isn't going to change. They will be a force next year. They also signed Jawan Taylor, Charles Omenihu, Kershawn Wharton, Drew Tranquil, re-signed Blake Bell and Derek Nottie. I mean, they're looking good. I think that the free agency gets a B+. They didn't make any big things happen, but they didn't need to. They're a team coming off of a Super Bowl with most of their team coming back. They didn't need to do anything absolutely crazy, if you get what I mean. Next up, number 2 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, team that was easily best in the regular season, made it to the Super Bowl. Again, how can you not have them at number 2? Of course they're going to be there. Can't argue with it. If it's me, I can't argue with putting them at number 2. But what they did in free agency, they kept Fletcher Cox, kept James Bradbury, kept Brandon Graham, kept Boston Scott, got Rashad Penny, kept Jason Kelce, kept Darius Slay, got Terrell Edmonds, got some insurance with Marcus Mariota, kept Lane Johnson. I mean, really, it's an A. They did. I didn't think they were going to keep everyone, but they did. They kept everyone, made a couple of small upgrades. They should be a really good team again this year. It's hard not to put them at 2 for me. At number 3, it's the Buffalo Bills. Team that underwhelmed. I know. And everyone's got high expectations from them again this year. They got Jordan Poyer back. They got Connor McGovern. Got Matekovic, Milano, Damian Harris, Dane Jackson, Taylor Rapp, Jordan Phillips. They kept their team and improved it in small ways. They're a team that didn't need to overhaul everything. They didn't need to go and trade away everyone and get a whole new team. They needed to keep what they had and make small improvements. That's what they did. Another B+ for me. That's what's got to be. It has to be B+. Next up, at number 4, it's the Miami Dolphins. Another team from that same division. It'll be a competitive division. That's got to be one of the best. But they got Jalen Ramsey. They got Jalen Ramsey now, too. They got Jalen Ramsey. Got David Long. Kept Mostert. Kept Jeff Wilson. They added a bunch of smaller, not smaller, but like a bunch of depth players, which is something they lacked a little bit last year. Got players, depth players like Nick Needham, Braxton Berrios, Andrew Van Ginkel. I mean, really. They just did what they needed to do, and as long as Tua stays healthy, I don't see why they can't be contending in that strong AFC. Gotta give them an A- for their free agency. Next up, number 5 on the list is the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they've consistently improved, and I expect them to continually improve into this year as well. Cincinnati, they got Orlando Brown, Jermaine Pratt. They just added more depth. That's what they needed. I know they added some things in the draft as well. Like, they just did what they needed to do. They're going to be going into next season in a strong AFC and a strong AFC North at that. And I think they're going to win that division. Another B+. I didn't think they did anything wrong in free agency. At number 6 on the list, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is a bit controversial, probably, because they have a lot of ifs, because we don't know who's their quarterback. Who is their quarterback? Like, let's just take a quick detour to their depth chart. Who's their quarterback going to be? Because they still got Brock Purdy. They still got Trey Lance. And they signed Sam Darnold. Who is their quarterback going to be? Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, probably Sam Darnold. But, like, who? I think no matter who they go to, it's going to be a good option. I think Trey Lance can still be good. Brock Purdy showed he was good last year. But I think they need to make a decision, and they need to stick with that decision. They cannot be hesitant. They need to have full confidence in their decision when they make their decision, or else they are going to regret it, because they won't have any consistency, and they won't have a consistent passer for these dynamic receivers. I mean, look at this. They got Christian McCaffrey coming out of the back. They got Elijah Mitchell coming out of the back. That's good. They got Deebo Samuel, and they got Brandon Ayuk. They got Juwan Jennings. They got Ray McLeod. They got Willie Snead. Heck, I didn't even notice that. And they got George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk with a good offensive line with Trent Williams. I mean, really, that's a team. They also going to have a good defense. They got Bosa. They got Armstead. They got Javon Hargrave. They got Fred Warner. They got Charvarius Ward. They're going to be good. But I think this all depends on their quarterback. If it was me, I have to go for Trey Lance. I think you give Trey Lance the reins and say it's his to lose in training camp. See how Brock Purdy does. See how Trey Lance does. And if Trey Lance doesn't do good, you're fully comfortable going to Brock Purdy. I think that's the best decision that they can make. Now, we'll go back to their free agency. They signed Javon Hargrave. They signed Sam Darnold, as I previously mentioned. They signed Tayshaun Gibson. And again, just added depth. I think this is a solid B. They probably should have added another solid offensive lineman. But I think that's going to be a really good team next year. Next up, 7th, the Jets. This is one of the biggest jumps I've seen in a while from year to year. I didn't expect them to be good at the start of last year, and they almost made the playoffs. I'm expecting them to be good this year. They've got a bunch of players that are going to be coming in with NFL experience from last year. Some solid young guys that are going to continually develop throughout the season. I think they also have a consistent quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. If they stay healthy, they are going to be an amazing team next year. I don't see how they, I guess the only way they don't make the playoffs is because of a competitive division. But they should be able to there should be 3 teams coming out of that. I've loved what they've done in free agency. Obviously, they traded for Aaron Rodgers. They got Allen Lazard, signed Quincy Williams, got Chuck Clark from a trade, Solomon Thomas, McCole Hardman. They did a really good. That's an A+ free agency. They're a contending team after being, at the beginning of last year, they were considered to be one of the worst teams. Now, they made a big jump. They've also got a bunch of young guys coming in. They are going to surprise some people, because some people are expecting them to be 10-7, 10-7, 9-8, good team. Get bounced in the divisional round. No. Oh, no. Only reason they could be is because of how competitive that AFC is. I wouldn't be shocked to see them make a run to the AFC Championship game and maybe even win that division. They're that good. Anyway, that's an A+ free agency in my book. Up next at 8. This one's going to shock some people. It's going to shock some people. I have the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I know. It kind of sounds stupid, but you're going to have to hear me out on this one. They kept their team from last year, which with a backup quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, for half a year, almost made the playoffs. Or was competing. They were a solid, almost a 500 team. Now, with Deshaun Watson being there, now I don't like Deshaun Watson. I don't think he's a good guy. But as a quarterback, as a player, with him coming into this team and hopefully playing the whole thing, that's going to add a dynamic to this offense. Don't forget they have Amari Cooper. They have weapons. They have Nick Chubb out of the back. Yeah, they're in a competitive division and a competitive AFC, but they are going to be good. They got Juan Thornhill, got Dalvin Tomlinson, they kept Taki, and they just overall got better. They got Marquise Goodwin, they got Elijah Moore. Now, I think they can contend to win that division. For the AFC North is going to be one of the most competitive divisions in football. No doubt about it. But I think that the Browns and the Bengals will be the ones competing for that. Could the Steelers make the playoffs? Yeah. Could the Ravens compete for that division? Yeah. But I don't think those two teams are going to be the ones mainly at the top that season, that entire season. Overall, though, I got to give their free agency a solid B-. They didn't really do much, but they did stuff. They didn't do a ton, but they did stuff. Up next, Vegas Raiders. Yeah, another weirdish one. I've got Las Vegas in here. Let me find their free agency. Here it is. They franchise tagged Josh Jacobs. I think that's a good decision. They lost Darren Waller, which I think they probably should have tried to keep him, but they ended up trading him and got some stuff. Got Jimmy Garoppolo, so hopefully that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to make them. They're going to be a 9-8 team, but in that division, I'm not sure if that's going to be good enough. I'm not sure that that's going to be good enough. They're in a division with Denver. They're in a division with Kansas City. They're in a division with the Chargers. That's going to be a very competitive division. One of those 4 teams, I should say one of those 3 teams, because the Chiefs aren't going to be that team, is going to disappoint. Because not all of them can be in the playoffs unless they all go 9-8 or 8-9. And in that AFC, that's not happening. Not the one team, whether it's Vegas, Denver, or LA. Right now, I'm thinking LA. One of those teams will disappoint. They also got Jacoby Myers, Robert Spillane, Amir Abdullah, I guess. I don't know why I mentioned him. But Austin Hooper, I guess. Actually, Austin Hooper. Yes, Austin Hooper. They added a lot of depth. I can't argue with a lot of depth. They did all that. They did that. So overall, I got to give them a solid B+. They added some good targets, and I think they'll make the playoffs next year after a disappointing 22 season. And number 10, the Ravens. The Ravens made, I don't know why I'm blanking. Did they make the playoffs? What am I thinking right now? Anyway, Baltimore, they gave Lamar Jackson a non-exclusive franchise tag. That's going to be something to monitor. They got Trayvon Mullen. They added Odell Beckham Jr. They added Nelson Aguilar. With people getting healthy again this year, they're going to be contending. If they don't do good this year, I think they need to try and scrap the team outside of Lamar Jackson. They really just need to rebuild that entire offense. I don't know if that would involve a new offensive coordinator or head coach, but if they can't do good this year, I think that they should try and rebuild it. Now, I do think that they will improve because of Odell Beckham and Nelson Aguilar, giving Lamar Jackson a less one-dimensional offense, because now he's got Mark Andrews, Odell Beckham, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar. He's got targets. He's got a running game. He's got J.K. Dobbins. He's got himself. He should be able to make a good offense out of that. But if he doesn't, that is going to be disappointing. That will be a disappointing thing for us to watch. And up next is Dallas. Dallas is iffy. Dallas is going to be an iffy team this year. I don't know. Looking at Dallas, what have they done in free agency to improve their team? They got rid of Zeke. Yay. Well, not yet. They could still resign him, but Zeke is probably not going to be there. They kept Tony Pollard, which is big. They needed to keep Tony Pollard. That's huge. They got Stephon Gilmore. That's going to be a good defense. They kept Leighton Vander Esch. Got CJ Goodwin at corner. Got Brandon Cooks. They added, but I think they needed to do a little more of a full-scale rebuild, and they didn't. I think they needed to only keep their core and try and revamp the rest of the offense at least. It's not what they did. They focused more on that already good defense, which I guess you can improve what you're already good at, but like, no. Like, I don't see that. I don't see that working because their offense is still going to be a little bit off. They're going to be second in that division behind the Eagles and in front of the Giants, but it's going to be competitive between those three teams, and heck, even the Commanders. That's going to be a competitive division as well. Next up, though, we have the Denver Broncos. They got Mike McGlinchey. They got Manhurts. They got Sean Payton. Not a player, but one of the best coaches available. They did a lot of stuff. They got Zach Allen as well. They did a lot of things, and I think that will revamp this team. This is going to give them a new identity. This is going to revitalize Russell Wilson, hopefully. If they don't do good this year, I think you need to try and shop Russell Wilson. Put him on the market. That's what I think. If you don't have a good year this year, you are done. I think Denver will do better. But that is not in any way a given. Not in any way. Overall, I'd rank their free agency C+. At 13, the Vikings, coming off of a really good year last year, but were they really good? Were they? I don't know. How good were they? I don't think they were as good as the record shows. The Vikings last year either got crushed or won in a one-score game. That's not the kind of team I'm willing to, I'm putting all my marbles on. I mean, they did stuff. Nothing major. They got Marcus Davenport. Got Garrett Bradbury for that offensive line. Got Josh Oliver at tight end. They got Byron Murphy at the corner. Not a ton. I don't think they needed to do a ton. They just needed to be more consistent. I think that's all they need to do. Gel together and be more consistent. And I think they're a good team. But I don't know how much of a given that is. C+ on the free agency, by the way. Up next, Chargers. Nothing about the Chargers very much impresses me. Yes, they're a good team. Yes, they made the playoffs last year. And also, yes, they got killed in the second half by the Jacksonville Jaguars. They should have won that game. I think they were up 21-0. Maybe, I think that was 28. And they lost. And they didn't do anything about it. They added Eric Kendricks, Trey Pipkins, and that is really it. No, you needed to do more. You weren't going to be able to do that with a team that just got bounced in the first round after being up 28-0. That team isn't going to be any better than it was last year because they're not the most, yeah, they're young, but they're not like a bunch of first round picks. Yeah, Herbert's going to continue to develop and a couple other guys, but the rest of that team is the same. That's not much is going to change. And that's why I think they're here. They can still pull off a good season, but in that division, I don't know. I really just don't know if they can pull that off. At 15, Patriots. Who's their quarterback? That's kind of iffy, isn't it? Feels like it is. I think it'll be Mac Jones. I think that's probably the consensus. But I don't have a ton of confidence in Mac Jones. Oh, I don't have it. But, and look at them. Look at the team. They're good. Don't get me wrong, they're good. QB, they got Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi and Trace McSorley. At running back, they're pretty solid. They got Ramondre Stevenson. That's going to be fine. Wide receiver, I'm not necessarily worried yet. Juju, Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton, Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki at tight end, and Anthony Ferguson. And they're going to be good. They've got a good coach. But in that division, I could see them really, really flopping. I could see them being 4-15. I could see them being 5-4, 5-12. I could see them being 5-12, 6-11. But I could also see them being 9-8, maybe by a long shot, 10-7. I don't really know what to think of this team, and that's kind of justified by my ranking of them at 15. In free agency, they added Juju, which I guess is big. They added Jabril Peppers. They added Jonathan Jones. I mean, they did some stuff. They had James Robinson, a running back. Mike Gesicki. And they're good. Don't get me wrong. But in such a competitive division. In a division. With the Dolphins. With the Bills. With the Jets. Is this team gonna be the best team in that division? No. And I think they're gonna miss the playoffs because of that, despite being a very good team on paper. At 16th, the Giants. Giants are another team that surprised me last year, kind of like the Jets. And I think they continued to get better this offseason. They kept Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley, I'm not confident to say they kept him yet. He's on the franchise tag. But I wouldn't say that's a guarantee. I want to see more progress in negotiations, let's put it that way. But they added potentially a good weapon in Darren Waller. They improved the defense with Bobby Okereke. They kept Sterling Shepard, kept Isaiah Hodgins, added Paris Campbell, kept Darius Slayton. I mean, I think they did good. Solid B free agency for me. I think Daniel Jones, if he continues to improve, they can make the playoffs again this year and maybe shock some people like they did last year. But again, I think people are going to overshadow them with the fact that the Eagles are in the division, the Cowboys are in the division. They could shock some people. Let's put it that way. Up next, 17th, the Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars made the playoffs last year. And they're in a not very good division, and they're not really a great team at that. But they're gonna be basically the same team they were last year. They didn't do a ton, but I don't have much confidence in the Titans, the Texans, the Colts. Not really. None of them are perking my interest. That's kind of something there. So, like, yeah, they'll probably win the division, but they won't be a good team. They're probably going to lose in the first round. Trevor Lawrence is fine. I don't have anything against Trevor Lawrence, but I don't think they're giving him enough. Evan Engram, they kept. Overall, they should have done more. Probably a C minus D. I don't know, for the free agency grade. Up next, Commanders. Another team that made one of the biggest improvements of all in firing Dan Snyder. That's probably the biggest improvement we'll see all offseason. What's the firing of Dan Snyder? Not even joking. And they also did pretty good. I mean, kept Daron Payne, kept Andrew Wiley, got Cody Barton, I guess, Nick Gates, got Jacoby Brissett. I think right now their quarterback is Sam Howell for right now. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I don't have a ton of confidence in him. He's good, but I don't have a ton of confidence in this guy. Sam Howell. Up next, forgot the grade. Yeah, they did amazing. A+. They fired Dan. They got rid of Dan Snyder. A+. 19th, the Lions. The Lions were a team that also shocked a lot of people. And I mean a lot of people, including me. Last year, the Detroit Lions were like everyone's team to root for unless they were against your favorite team. And they are hopefully going to build on that. They got Cameron Sutton, Alex Anzalone, Isaiah Buggs. I guess, I don't know why I mentioned him, but David Montgomery, Manuel Mosley, Graham Glasgow, CJ Gardner-Johnson. They got better. Now, hopefully, they stay consistent at quarterback this year, like he did last year. If they find consistency, I have no reason to say they can't compete in a weak division. I don't have a ton of confidence in Green Bay. I don't have a ton of confidence in the Bears. I don't have a ton of confidence in the Vikings. Well, I think the Vikings will make it, but I think the Detroit Lions could compete for that throughout the season. And overall, I'll give them a solid B+. They did a good amount of stuff and helped that team. They helped that team get better. Up at 20th, the Panthers, mainly because they got the number 1 overall pick. That's mainly my good reason, I guess. They did get a little better. They got a little better. There we go. Gotta get my free agency page back up. But yeah, adding the number 1 quarterback in the draft class is obviously going to help you. And that quarterback is a good quarterback, and I have confidence in that. Bryce Young, he's going to be good. It was him or C.J. Stroud. I don't get why people said Will Levis could have done that. I just don't. But they didn't do much, but in that division, they are going to be good. Because think of it, the Buccaneers, they lost Tom Brady. They don't have much. Saints, yeah, they got Derek Carr now, but still, I don't see a lot. I don't have a lot of confidence in them. And same thing with the Falcons. So it's a bunch of average teams, and I think the Panthers could come out of that with some of the additions. I mean, they kept Bradley Bozeman, they got Miles Sanders, Hayden Hurst, got Andy Dalton as some insurance, Shy Tuttle, Von Bell, I guess Adam Thielen, Julian Love, DJ Chark. They've surrounded Bryce Young with options. He's not going to be a sitting duck as long as the offensive line's decent, which they should be. But they should do well. They should do well. I think the free agency, mainly with the trade, yeah, they lose DJ Moore, but mainly with the trade, I've got to give them a solid B. They did decent. Next up at 21, the Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers. They're a young developing team that I think can compete. Not for a Super Bowl, but for the playoffs. And they can build off of that. They got Larry Ogunjobi. They got Patrick Peterson. They got Cole Holcomb. They re-signed James Pierre, DeMonte Casey, Keanu Neal. They didn't need to add a ton, but because they got the developing quarterback in Kenny Pickett. They got Kenny Pickett. They got Najee Harris. They got a stud in George Pickens. Got Deontay Johnson. They got a solid defense. They got TJ Watt on defense. I think they can compete. I think they'll be good. Solid B- free agency, C+ free agency. I think they can compete. Next up, Packers at 22. Not a team I have a ton of confidence in. It's the Packers. They just lost their quarterback, an MVP caliber quarterback. He's not going to improve. Most likely, unless that guy was like Deshaun Watson, I guess. They really didn't do much in free agency either. I guess their biggest signing, honestly, was Keyshawn Nixon. Really, that was it. I mean, they didn't do much. I don't even want to do much for them. There's not much to talk about. They traded away. They got some picks. And they're going to be solid. You just got to trust in Jordan Love. Just trust in him. At 23, the Seattle Seahawks. A team that also surprised last year, and I don't think they'll be able to replicate that. I'm sorry. Call me negative Nelly or whatever. I don't think they can replicate it. Kept Geno Smith, which I think was the right decision. But, they don't have a giant, they don't have a big kind of team. In a relatively weak division where your only competition is the 49ers, they could do well, but I think they might make the playoffs, but I don't have a ton of confidence. The NFC is weak. The NFC is weak. That's all I need to say. They got Bobby Wagner back, right? They got Julian Love. Got Devin Bush. I mean, they added a better defense. They didn't really give much more to Geno Smith. Granted, he already has DK Metcalf, who's a monster, but I mean, overall, very good. I can't argue with their free agency. Solid B, and I think their position is justified. At 24, the Saints. The New Orleans Saints. They added Derek Carr, but the rest of their team is just average. I think that's all I need to say to justify their ranking there. I mean, in free agency, they kept Michael Thomas on a 1-year deal, kept Jameis Winston on a 1-year deal, signed a couple of defensive tackles, did Nathan Shepard and Kalen Saunders, got Juwan Johnson, the tight end. I mean, got Jonathan Abram. Again, they didn't need to do a ton. Actually, it kind of did, but I think they're going to try with this team this year, and if that doesn't work out, they're going to go radical rebuild next year. Kind of imploding the core of that team next year. I think they might have slightly overpaid for Derek Carr as well, though. 4 years, $150 million. A little much. But overall, I mean, C+ free agency, C free agency. That's what I gotta say. Up next, number 25, the Titans. Who is their quarterback gonna be? Who? Honestly, though, who's their quarterback gonna be? Is it gonna be Ryan Tannehill? Is it gonna be Malik Willis? Who? Someone tell me when they made their decision, because, jeez. They drafted someone, right? I think, yeah, they drafted Will Levis. I forgot about that. I also drafted Will Levis. Who's the quarterback going to be? I think Tannehill this year. But Now you've got two young quarterbacks that you probably want to develop. Because, like, Malik Willis, I think he can be something. I think he can do something in the NFL. I think I think Will Levis can too. I don't know what they were thinking drafting Will Levis, though. I mean, yeah, he slid to the third round or whatever. Not third round, sorry. Actually, I think he did slide to the third round, right? Yeah. But anyway, I mean, he slid and they took him, which might not be bad. I think they should have traded Tannehill, though. That would have been smart. Anyway, after that tangent, we'll take a look at the free agency. They got Andre Dillard, offensive tackle. Uso. And they got Sean Murphy bunting. They didn't do much. Really didn't do much. No weak division, they could still win it, but I don't know. I don't really see it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well at 26. At this point, I'm just going to read them off because none of these guys did anything. 27, the Bears, 28, the Falcons, 29, the Colts, 30, the Rams, 31, the Cardinals, and 32, the Texans. Texans might go up a little bit throughout the season with CJ Stroud, but that's really it there. But that's it. Check out my YouTube channel, Football Front Podcast. It's called The Football Front Podcast. That is the name of it. Go check that out. Go subscribe, like, comment, all the good stuff. 5 stars on the podcast. I hope you guys enjoy this. Sorry for the break. And I will see you whenever the next one is.